and welcome back to Fantasy Hot Corner. I'm your host, Tara Vaughan, alongside our fantasy expert, Kevin Walsh, where we are going to give you some tips about your fantasy league. Last week, there were a ton of injuries just flying around, but this week on Sunday, we saw the return of Carlos Williams. So what is the current value of the rookie running back?
Well, Carlos Williams is someone that you definitely want to own. A lot of times, rookie backs who are slotted 2 on the depth chart, they really only become valuable once someone gets hurt. But Carlos Williams, even though he did deal with some injuries himself, every single game he's played in, he has a touchdown. I mean, that's just undeniable talent. Every time he's on the field, he's scoring. And LaShawn McCoy suffered a shoulder injury this past week. So if he's not 100% by Thursday, you definitely want to have Carlos Williams in as many leagues as you can get him.
Well, speaking of struggles, Eddie Lacy has been struggling all year and now has a groin injury. So what is the outlook on James Starks?
Well, truthfully, most fantasy owners have probably made the transition from Eddie Lacy to James Starks already. And it's now looking like the Green Bay Packers might make that full transition this coming week. Eddie Lacy dealing with the groin injury, and just the simple fact that he's not producing at all makes James Starks someone that you really want to have. I mean, Eddie Lacy could wake up, maybe, but as of right now, James Stark is just outperforming him game in and game out.
And in Week 9, Big Ben suffered another injury, and now Landry Jones will be the Steelers' quarterback until he returns. What will it mean for the skill players in Pittsburgh?
Well, obviously, these players all take a hit without Big Ben in, but realistically, the Steelers own some of the best fantasy players in all fantasy football. Antonio Brown, you saw the week he had 17 receptions and 284 yards. I mean, he is as good as it gets, and you don't need to worry about if Landry Jones or if Big Ben's throwing the ball. I could throw the ball to Antonio Brown, and he'll be successful. And it also probably means an uptick in the amount of carries that D'Angelo Williams has. Martavis Bryant should be fine, and Heath Miller, he's kind of been struggling, but you could stash him for when Big Ben comes back for your playoff weeks.
Well, Dion Lewis just suffered a torn ACL and is now out for the season. So who will be there in his absence?
Well, the real issue here is the fact that Bill Belichick is known for having no stability in his backfield. Well, this year he had it. Dion Lewis was the pass catcher and LeGarrette Blount was the ball carrier. Things have changed now because Dion Lewis is no longer there, and this now brings this question mark every single Sunday as to who Bill Belichick is actually going to use. It's either going to be James White or Brandon Bolden. Now, last week, Brandon Bolden caught a touchdown, but James White was inactive, and James White is known as the primary pass catcher out of the two. So if you had to have one of them, I would go James White, but realistically, both are valuable, and both are going to be question marks every single week probably.
Well, now that it's Week 10, the trade deadline is coming to a close in many leagues. So who are some guys that players could sell high on?
Well, selling high is really difficult to figure out because how do you give away a player who's contributing to your team? Sometimes, though, you just have to know when it's the right time to sell. For example, James Jones was coming out and was taking full advantage of being the number 2 receiver in Green Bay. However, the past 2 weeks, he's really been struggling, in part due to the fact that they went against the Denver Broncos defense. And now last week, it's the fact that Davante Adams is fully healthy, and James Jones is just more of a touchdown guy. So if you have James Jones and you can move on from him because Davante Adams looks like he's going to be the clear guy, that would be someone who I would definitely sell high on.
And if anybody needs to stream a quarterback for Week 10, who should they add?
Well, in all honesty, if you're in need of a quarterback, let's just throw streaming out the window. If you need a quarterback to help you win your league, Blake Bortles is the guy. Looking at his schedule the rest of the way, he's playing bad teams, and even when he's playing good defenses, he's putting up big numbers, and he's not heavily owned, even though he should be. Unless you have Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, or Drew Brees, or those guys of that echelon, you should really move on from your quarterback and make Blake Bortles your starting QB the remainder of the fantasy season.
Well, that wraps things up for Fantasy Hot Corner. I'm Tara Vaughan alongside Kevin Walsh, and log on to NewYorkSportsMachine.com.